CCU Orlando, Natural Awakenings Magazine, and Unity of Nashville present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 56, Energetic Boundaries. And now, your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice. I'm here in 818 Studios with my producer.
Hey, my name is Dave Croft. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey.
Happy Monday to you. We love to be some of the first to say Happy Monday and to welcome you to your work week. And even, of course, even if it's not Monday when you're listening, but welcome to your week and bless you on the journey. We're so happy that you're joining us. And again, always honored that people all over the world are listening. And I think I want to do a shout out to a special place today in the U.S. I have had some wonderful connections with my friends from Kansas City lately. And so I'm blessing you all. And for your support of the show. It's really, really amazing, and your support of me. So blessings, friends, in Kansas City. And if you live in Kansas City, you're going Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm going to say yes, because I have friends in both Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. And I went to school there, and Unity's ministerial school is in Lee's Summit, Missouri. So I made some great friends there. So I want to do a shout out to you all today in Kansas City. Thank you for your love and your support and for sharing the show.
Yeah, and we are well into our second year. Here, and it's good to have some. We have some new sponsors. You've probably noticed at the beginning of the show, we welcomed two new patron level or sponsor level patrons. We brought on Natural Awakenings Magazine, and we love Natural Awakenings Magazine. They are, of course, distributed nationwide.
Yep.
However, we are working with the Central Florida, Greater Orlando chapter, I guess, of Natural Awakening. So very happy to have them on board, and so give them some love. You know, we'll talk a little bit about them in the middle of the show, and give you some links that you can check out in our show notes. And we also want to welcome aboard Unity of Nashville and John McClain out there, who is amazing.
Amazing.
He is awesome. John is awesome, and he's not the same John McClain from Die Hard. Different
That's
guy.
right. That's right.
He gets that all the time. I'm sure he gets that all the time.
Although John's former career was in television. He was in post-production. He's worked on a lot of great shows. I'm going to let him tell his story of that, though, when he's on the show. He's going to be on in the future, and I'm really excited about having John with us. Today, show 56 is called Energetic Boundaries. Energetic Boundaries.
Yeah. But before we get into that, let's give a shout out to our listeners in Bulgaria. Yeah, our country, Bulgarian listeners. Hey, what is up? What's happening? I wish I knew anything in Bulgarian. However, when teaching in Germany, we had some Bulgarian students who actually...
oh, really?
Yeah, who came in, and he... totally flaking on his name, but we got to talking about the euro. And Bulgaria was about to join the European Union. I thought that was really, really exciting. And he was kind of bummed out about it. And I was like, why? There's so many great things about the European Union. And he brought out a euro. And then he brought out a bill in his own money, Bulgarian money.
I was just going to say, yeah.
And he says, look at the. He pointed to the king on the money. He's like, look at this person. This was a great man. I know who this is. This is who we are. It's represented in our money.
Yeah.
Now look at this, and he held open a euro, like a $5. He's like, it's all shapes and buildings. He's like, this means nothing to me. And so he was really concerned about losing his history as a part of joining the European Union, and that really kind of opened my eyes, opened my mind to how culture. Is shared from generation to generation, and something that looks really good. And I love the European Union. The United States is kind of, in a way, kind of like the European Union, and it's a bunch of smaller states who are all kind of banded together under an overarching federal system. But you just don't ever, in history class, you don't ever think about how that kind of thing affects the day-to-day people. And so, yeah, I learned a lot about Bulgaria, and super awesome, nice people.
Yes, and we're blessing you on the journey. And no, it doesn't matter what country we're from; we're all in this together.
That's right.
And that's actually a great story, Dave. It is interesting. I had that feeling when I realized we were going so much to using plastic instead of money. That scares me a little bit still today.
Like in a revelation kind of cashless society kind of way into the world, Armageddon?
No. Just because of the loss of connection with, even on the dollar, it says, "In God we trust." Plastic doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of symbolism on our money. So anyway, that's interesting. And when I was in Brazil years ago, they were in the middle of a currency change. Boy, that's interesting. So anyway, we'll save that for another show. The spirituality of money, we should do that.
Yeah, you know what?
Let's do that. Really Write that down.
I'll put it into our topic.
Yeah, the spirituality of money would be a great show. I love to talk about prosperity, actually, and I'm working on my platform with figuring out how does prosperity fit into all the other things I do, but it really does. I keep working with the idea that all of my work really is around reawakening consciousness, and even money, prosperity is a part of that because it's a part of self-love.
Which is. And money is also energy.
Yes.
Which ties into what we're talking about today.
Yes. There's also an amazing author. Maybe we should try to get her on, who wrote a great book called The Energy of Money. So this is really not the money show. Stay tuned, friends. But we'll get to that one. That's going to be a great show, I can tell already. Today is about energetic boundaries, and it's something I've worked with a long time, and I still learn a lot about today. I often jokingly, talk about working with people, and there's nothing like helping you with energetic boundaries than working with people, because we all operate with certain energies, and we interact, with each other all the time. And our energy fields, our auric fields, are always connecting, and there's a certain energetic vibration that we live from, and that we even live under, rather, in terms of a general feeling tone, rather, of our lives. So I've learned a great deal over the years about energy, and every time I learn more, I realize how little I know, because it is energy. You can't necessarily touch it or feel it always, but it's always there. So I thought talking about energetic boundaries would be really, really helpful to all of us, myself included, because a lot of times when we think of boundaries, we think of physical boundaries, like, if I'm married, or if you're married, because I'm not, but if you're married,
right.
There's certain boundaries you have just with your spouse that you wouldn't have with anybody else. In other words, you have a boundary, you don't have touching of a certain kind with anyone other than your wife.
Right. And I've actually talked about that on the show, about how, at a show, someone during one of the singers kind of came up and did like, a little kind of, sexy play, like just for the show, because we're on stage. And it made my boundary get all bristly.
It was like, ooh, that's not cool. Yeah, that's not cool. Right. And so, which is a great boundary. And I was so glad for people to hear it, because it wasn't even necessarily the touching. I mean, that was a part of it, but it was also the energy that went with it.
Exactly. Like, this is an energy reserved just between me and Shannon. And even in play, I don't want to go there.
Yeah. And I've worked with it in ministries over the years, and I've had situations where I've had people in the ministry that were inappropriate in their sexual boundaries, and we had to have, a conversation. Yeah. So energetic boundaries are important, really, for living a happy, healthy, abundant, to use that word, life, because most of us grew up really learning how to give our energy away, that we were to serve the family or serve those in need, to the point that we didn't know who we were. So if I were giving you notes, I would say the first thing to write down would be know where you are. Know where you are. And when I say know where you are, that doesn't mean physically know where you are. It means emotionally, energetically know where you are. So knowing where you are energetically means I've checked in with myself, and I want to encourage you to do this on a daily basis. So the way I do this, and we've talked about it a little bit with some of our Dream Big stuff, But knowing where you are means I know my feeling reality. I know if I'm tired or I'm sick or I'm sad or mad or glad. And I've checked in with myself, so I know what is the baseline with where I'm beginning my day. And even before I do my journaling, now I don't do this every morning, but when I remember to do this, this is so supportive of my journey. I mentioned it months ago, it's very early on in the first year, where I had a therapist say to me, before you even get out of bed in the morning, ask the question, how is the universe holding me today? How is the universe holding me today? This is an important question because it causes you to move out of just, oh, I'm tired, and you're getting up out of bed and doing your thing. It starts, it connects you right away with your intuition and how are you feeling energetically. And how is the universe holding me today? This question brings in a lot of factors. It touches on emotion, but even how the universe is holding me, I will be impacted by what's happening astrologically. Now, I haven't talked a lot about astrology on the show because I know so little about it, but I respect it as a spiritual study, and I've had many great teachers and helpers help me understand it. And I know that we're all impacted by the planetary forces. So the question, how is the universe holding me today? If I get a certain feeling about that, well, there are ways to check that out. I can look at what the astrology is for the day and then study what impact that might be having. Or if you're me, you just call your friend and say, dude, is Mercury still in retrograde? This is killing me here.
And we're not talking about just like checking your horoscope. I mean, we're
right. Yeah, exactly. There are planetary forces. I mean, just like what season are we in impacts how is the universe holding me today. Mm-hmm. One of the things here in Florida right now, we're all talking about, it's like 100 degrees already.
Yeah, the oppressive heat.
It has poured on. I mean, and I literally said right before coming on the air that I wish I had my oven mitts that I used in Phoenix on my steering wheel, because when I got in my truck today to drive over to the studio, it was so hot. Mm-hmm. And my car wasn't in the garage or anything, so it was just like baking out there, So even weather is a factor in how is the universe holding me today. And so even the season, the time of year, and if this is feeling arduous as I'm saying it, you're thinking, okay, I've got to check in with my horoscope. I've got to read astrology, books on astrology. I've got to know it's this takes about 30 seconds. This is not a long thing necessarily, but it's just like checking in energetically. How do I feel? How does the energy around me feel? And then are there adjustments that I need to make, or are there ways I need to take care of myself based on how I'm feeling? Mm-hmm. And I'm really learning, and have in the last year or so, that there are certain things that based on where I am, that I might need to shift my day to support my soul going throughout the day. If I'm having a tough morning or I'm going through a tough time and I'm too scheduled, that's not going to be good because I'm not giving myself time to process. Or if I start skipping my workouts, so if I wake up and I'm conscious in the morning first thing, how is the universe holding me today? And maybe my dog comes over and I'm petting him on the head and I'm thinking, okay, what's going on? It's just a way to become conscious about how do I want to, enter into my day before I get up, before I even do a feeling check-in. Like I'm already becoming aware of my feeling nature. And so when I say know where you are, it starts even before you get out of bed in the morning, and I would really encourage you to try that. Mm-hmm. Just to be with that.
And you can give attention to that the night before. So before you lay down, you're like, okay, this is where I am. This is where I am. This is where I want to be in the morning, and then go from there.
No, I think it is. And we talked a little bit about this before too, but it's definitely worth mentioning again. I'm glad you said, Dave, about about setting the intention the night before. Often taking an intention into your dream state, doing forgiveness work or release work right before bed is a wonderful way to be acting in the best interest of your soul. So I want to encourage you to think about that as you go to bed at night. What energy are you taking into sleep? And it's real easy to get in the habit of having the TV on till like you're falling asleep or even sleeping with it. I'm not saying that's evil, but I'm saying it makes you probably a little less conscious just because you're not really focused on your journey. And we all have times of doing that. So that's not a major issue. But again, it's something to be aware of.
Yeah, exactly. It's just got to know what's happening. Like keeping I always have fitful night sleep. Like one of the things that we do, Christmas Eve, we keep Christmas music on overnight.
Oh, nice.
And, but the older I get, the more I realize that I wake up all the way throughout the night, like hearing the music, which when I was younger was kind of part of it, but now I'm like, man, I'm not sleeping enough.
And I'm not sleeping enough. Yeah,
exactly. Right. But that gets into your consciousness just because you're not actively hearing it. It gets into your conscious. It would be interesting to see. We sleep with a sleep machine like white noise. It'd be interesting to know if that prohibits something like. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well,
like what the effect of white noise into the subconscious during sleep.
Right. Well, I mean, and there's a lot of studies, that have been done on sleep, and I think the main thing we're talking about is checking in and again becoming more conscious. The whole, it's funny, friends. Sometimes you're the last to know things about yourself, and I think really my whole ministry, my whole mission is about reawakening consciousness, first in myself. And then as a result of me learning lessons, bringing that to you. So some of the practices and the things I talk about are things I've kind of figured out by accident or things, mentors or therapists or teachers have shown me. And that question of how is the universe holding me is a powerful one. The other thing I talked about is knowing where you are. We started out with that. Sorry, I backed up a little bit. And knowing where you are after we wake up, after we kind of do that check-in with ourselves, which again might take 30 seconds or up to 5 minutes at a very maximum, that I really encourage you daily to do a daily check-in with your feelings and writing those down. The reason we do this is so that our feelings are not running our show. If the feeling nature is first and foremost or in the forefront, and you wake up angry or you wake up sad or you wake up mad and you're going into your day with that, that's like setting an intention to draw mad or angry or sad or whatever it is to yourself all day. So when you have a feeling and you write it down, the act of taking the pen and writing it, and friends, not on your computer, of writing it, helps move that energy out of your body and lets the page hold some of those feelings rather than them run your show. So if you are largely in your feeling nature, mad, sad, glad, whatever it might be, you're probably running life from your inner child and not from your adult self. So feelings are normal, but we want to be able to act and respond rather than react. So knowing where you are first thing in the morning is a great way to set up the energy and consciousness of your day. And my check-in takes about 3 minutes because I do it with an MC Yogi song, which we can now also put in the show notes. Yeah. I'll get it to you, Dave. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I think it's MC Yogi and Emerald Forest together. But doing that check-in, and I just simply write it down. How do I feel? And what started happening over the last couple of months is that as I'm writing it down, how I feel, I'm moving towards affirmation at the end of my feeling check-in. So it's saying to me that as I release the feelings or as I write them down, rather than being stuck in feeling mode, I can move into affirmation for really what I'm wanting to intend for my day. So knowing where you are, how is the universe holding me? Those are the couple of questions we're working with. You may do one or the other. You may do both. These are ideas for you to check in with where you are energetically. Again, we want to know where we are energetically so that we can have proper boundaries and not leak out our energy into places it doesn't belong.
Yeah, we were in a drive-through just this morning, actually, and it was just weird. It was just weird energy, and so we ended up having to kind of pull out. Right, this just felt really funky. It felt funky for both of us. And Shannon said, "I think that truck in front of us was." The energy was just kind of splashing onto us.
Yes.
And so it was totally affecting us.
Yes.
And man, when you're feeling ick for whatever reason, and you can say, "Hey, this is where this is coming from," and there's real power in that, and it immediately de-escalated any tension between us or whatever. And it's not like we were fighting or whatever, but we were able to say, "Hey, I think this is where this is coming from,"
like, yeah,
and so we could do something with it, and get rid of it.
Yes, and the more you start checking in with yourself, the more perceptive you become energetically. It's like we've all walked into a room and gone, "Ooh, there was just an argument in here. I'm out." You know, I'll never forget the first time I walked into a room, and my parents never fought, and when there was a voice raised, it's like, this is not for me. But that begins to happen energetically when you become more sensitive, and because you're more sensitive, it doesn't mean you're scared of it. It means you are becoming conscious of what an energetic reality means. And then, like you said, Dave, you can do something about it.
That's right.
Yeah, you can do something about it. So, and I think you're talking about a point we really wanted to talk about, which is when toxicity happens, what do we do? So I think we want to save that, though, for the second half. And we're going to go ahead and go to break and honor those new sponsors. We'll be right back.
We'll return to the program in just a few minutes, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partner, CCU Orlando, who has helped make this episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey possible. CCU Orlando is a welcoming community dedicated to transforming lives, celebrating diversity, and supporting soul growth. CCU Orlando is located at 771 Holden Avenue in Orlando, Florida, with Sunday services at 9 and 11 a.m. You can stream services live online as well as learn more at christchurchunity.net. We'd also like to thank Natural Awakenings Magazine of Central Florida, Greater Orlando. Each month, Natural Awakenings magazines across the country take a practical look at the latest natural approaches to nutrition, fitness, creative expression, personal growth, and sustainable living. Natural Awakenings magazine is a free publication and is available in selected stores, health and education centers, healing centers, public libraries, and wherever free publications are located. You could learn more, including advertising opportunities for your business, by calling 407-628-0705. And finally, we'd like to extend our special thanks to Unity of Nashville, a sister ministry of CCU Orlando. If you're searching for a like-minded church community and a personal connection that supports your heart and mind in the Central Tennessee area, then join Unity of Nashville at 10 a.m. every Sunday morning at 5125 Franklin Pike. For more information, head over to unityofnashville.org. And now we return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey with your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
And welcome back. Again, I am Cynthia Alice, the host, with Mr. Dave Croft.
Hey, what's happening?
So we were talking right before the break about when toxicity happens. And we all have this because we're all human. Sometimes the toxicity is us, It's like, oops. Yeah, that is it's like that's me. So when we are, when we've begun our day with this intention, we've checked in with ourselves, then when an energy comes at us or again is coming from us, then it's time to stop and assess. If we were in church, I would say, say with me, stop and assess.
Stop and assess.
I didn't say together and you did it.
You did. I'm confused.
You're right. What to do. Stop and assess. Stop everything, right? Stop everything and assess. Because as soon as you react, the energy's got you. And we really want to be, clear, conscious of where we want our energy to go. So toxicity is going to happen. Like you're saying, it could be in the drive-thru and you feel it coming your way. I've been driving and I pulled over by accident, obviously. Who pulls over in front of somebody on purpose? I pulled over and I didn't see somebody. There was this until I got these new little mirrors on my truck, there was this one little blind spot. And I pulled over, and the energy that came at me, I mean, I felt like I was getting shot in the back of the head with daggers. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so rather than also getting upset and swerving back and giving them the finger, which, was an initial thought, was like, oh my gosh, first of all, it scared me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like attacked energetically. And it was like, oh, this is not mine. And sometimes I will literally take my hand, and if you're watching on YouTube, this will help. And I will pull out the energy like this and say, no, no, no to the energy. And I do not accept it into my auric field.
Yeah, me and Shannon do, we kind of like if you're trying to shake the water off your hands.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Nope.
Yeah. Yep. And sometimes I'll go like this. I will literally just like, especially if I'm wanting to say something that I will definitely regret, to do that. So once we can stop and assess, then we can respond rather than react. And all of this is to reawaken consciousness in your very own soul. Because if you're in reaction mode, you're not acting from the soul, you're acting from the mind and the egoic, the small self. When we're reacting because maybe we feel defensive, maybe we feel unsafe, maybe we feel, maybe we do feel attacked, whatever that may be. We want to be in response rather than reaction mode. Can I have an amen?
Amen. Yeah, that's something I have to check all the time on social media.
Yeah.
I've lost count the number of times that I have a giant thesis of a response, generally on a political post of some sort.
Yes, it's easy to do.
And then I literally ask myself, what good will come of this, of me posting
That's
this?
a great question.
And if no good can come of it other than me feeling self-righteous, then I usually delete it.
Well, and I would say, when in doubt, don't respond at all.
Yeah.
For a while. And again, that's about checking in with yourself. So the knowing where you are that starts the morning off and asking, how's the universe holding me? That goes throughout your day. As I said a few shows ago, that just because we meditate, we don't meditate and then get up and do the same thing. The idea, the same thing as we've done in the past. The idea is that the meditation energy carries throughout our day. So if we start the day checking in and we're in a toxic situation, or we ourselves are feeling toxic and, wanting to blast somebody, well, the check-in continues to happen. And it's like, okay, man, I need to ratchet this back. Obviously, I'm feeling, attacked, and I really need to clean that up. This doesn't feel good, and I don't feel good in myself. And then we can have, the proper response, because karmically, we don't want to deal with the acting out. I can tell you, I know I don't.
Just, again, no good comes of that.
No good comes of that.
There's no upside. And even what little bit of, I feel good, I have exacted justice on the internet or in the world, that's fleeting at best.
Yeah.
And I never feel good about myself afterwards.
I know. And I talked about this recently in a Sunday morning as well, that there seems to be this predominant feeling now that if I'm not reacting in anger, that I'm being passive.
Right.
And the opposite usually is true. An anger burst does nothing to change things. I mean, nothing. Mm-hmm. And neither does, passivity. There has to be spiritually motivated action, to change things. But reacting in anger, in my view, it doesn't change things. All it does is puts more toxicity out in the world and creates more of the same that we already don't like.
Right. It's highly unlikely that a toxic reaction to a toxic situation will de-escalate the situation. That's very, very unlikely.
Yeah, let's do the math. Toxic plus toxic equals toxic.
Right. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's very, very rare that somebody who is spewing toxic energy, upon receiving toxic energy, will say, you know what? That stranger on the internet's right. I think I'll change my ways. No. What usually happens is you're just pouring gasoline on a fire.
Yeah, right. And I want to give an example of this. I had the weirdest feedback on YouTube one time. I was giving a message at CCU, and this particular post had gotten quite a few views. It was like over 2,000 views, and I listened to it. I was like, that's cool. The talk's called What's Up. And I didn't even think it was that fabulous of talk, but that was fine. I watched it and I was like, well, that's interesting. Well, then I looked at the comments and somebody said that they were really mad that I had worn pants to do the message. And I'm going to tell you something. If that would have been 10 years ago, I would have been in therapy for 6 months on that comment, because I would have taken on, in my codependence, I would have taken on their comment about that and think, oh, maybe I am doing it, maybe I am doing it wrong. Remember, I've shared that's the wrong thing. It's like, oh, maybe I am doing it wrong. Maybe I should do what they think and, whoever they are. And I was talking to a friend when that happened, and he had noticed it too. And he said, what are you going to do about that? I said, I think I'm going to wear a skirt the next 4 Sundays and see if that changes my message at all. And I said, just for fun. And he goes, I think that's a great idea. So that was a lot of fun.
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen you in a skirt.
No, you were there.
Was I there?
Yeah, you were there. You blocked it out.
I must have. I'm like, who is this stranger?
This is not right. So, and it was kind of fun for me because people say, oh, you're wearing a skirt. And I thought, for some reason it came to me recently, that comment. And, I'd like to, reach out to that person. I'm going to reach out and say, I took in your feedback and I didn't find that it changed, what I said, but thanks for sharing. Right. But I laughed actually when I read it the first time. And that's growth for me, is what I'm saying.
And anonymity seems to be fertilizer to toxicity.
It does.
Yes. Because if you don't fear any like personal not retribution, but any personal confrontation.
Well, any consequences.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Like if you're in the grocery store line, right? And somebody is taking too long, you're probably not going to say something if you're standing right behind them. But if somebody in a drive-through line, or if somebody doesn't go when the light changes, that you will go bonkers and you will be cussing and yelling, or not you, but because you're in your little protected bubble and they probably won't ever hear you, then you can let that toxicity really kind of take command of your response system. Yeah. Whereas in a grocery store line, because there's a real human being here and they're taking their time, they're writing a check in 2019, because that's a thing that still happens.
Me.
Yeah.
Dave, you'd love me at the store.
Oh my God.
I'd drive you insane.
No, what drives me insane is waiting until the total. Oh, there's the total. Now I'll reach in and grab out my checkbook, lick my pen, and start writing with this quill and feather.
Oh, I do have one of those too.
Oh my God. Just tell me
kidding.
You don't sign checks.
No,
at
I don't.
The grocery store, but you get what I'm saying.
No, of course I do. Yeah, so. And remember, friends, somebody very wise told me this years ago. We're not responsible for what we think and feel, but for what we say and do. For what we say and do, right? So you can have thoughts of anger and even resentments, but you deal with those so that what you say and do is from a much more grounded place that doesn't try to take people out, both physically and energetically. So we want to, again, reawaken our own consciousness. And always the work is here. The work starts with the self. So what I don't want you to do is say, hey, I listened to this podcast and I know everybody else's problem.
And I don't react that way, so I'm better.
And so I'm better. As a matter of fact, the work is always on the self, and we begin to notice patterns, certainly, of people, that we're working with, talking to, living with, whatever. But it's really not our job to point out others' patterns. Usually if we're seeing it because it's something in us. There's a recognition because it's maybe something we worked through. But, it's not our job to call everybody around us on their stuff. What is our work is to always ask, what does this have to do with me? How is this impacting my spiritual journey, so that we can show up differently, as we feel guided. So a question to ask ourselves too, and this is also in the last little bit here. I've been really challenged by a mentor recently, and really asking myself, where do I want my energy to go? Is a really good question to ask. Where do I want my energy to go? So this is both like it affects career, it affects friendships. If friendships, and I've had friends for 20, 30 years, but some friendships kind of lose, their life after a while.
Yeah.
And so, I had a friend years ago, and I was really close to him. I did his wedding, but over time, what I noticed is every time we talked, it was only about him. And then even when I flew to an area to see him, he couldn't come and see me because, I don't know, his kid had an appointment like a dentist appointment, but he'd known for months I was coming and,
right.
Stuff like that. And it was like, okay, I can take a hint from the universe. So I'm working really, really hard to see this person, and really he's not that interested. So it's okay. It's really okay. And then the friendship dropped. And then when he had a tough time, I was one of the first calls. And, it's like, good to hear from you. Here's my work and my website, and I hope this will support you. But that was hard because it meant setting a boundary with somebody I really loved, but it was obviously very one-sided. And that was important. That was important because it was really draining my energy over time. So that was hard, but it was good because I don't have anything negative about this friend. As a matter of fact, I think he's a good person. But I just realized what our friendship had become was just not positive for me.
Yeah. Friendships and just like any relationship should be mutually beneficial.
Yeah. And so, if we find, we're in situations where energy, we feel worn out or it's like this isn't working, we have the power, to change that. So I want to just encourage you to think, what are you giving your energy to? It can even mean, pulling back on certain activities that you used to do and now you don't really want to do anymore, but you're still doing.
Right.
So what I've learned is that when I'm giving my energy to something or to a place or a person, even it doesn't belong, then when I subtract my energy from it, it really allows space for someone else to come forward and fill that space, beautifully.
Right.
So it is, in my view, these ideas we're talking about in terms of friendships, relationships, and life itself, these are advanced ideas. Most of us just go through life and are like, okay, well, whatever, I'll just do it because
that guy's a jerk, so
whatever.
Guy,
right. And I think it helps us reawaken to the God consciousness that we are as we contemplate these things. Where do I want my energy to go? And, like right now, I know my energy is for friends, it's for CCU, it's about the podcast, and I'm connecting with people I've known 20, 25 years recently, and it's just been such a gift to my soul. I know that's what I'm supposed to do right now, and that may change, but boy, I feel real in sync with what my soul is doing, and the people I'm calling to myself, to do it with in terms of these long-term friendships.
Yeah, and that can be a tough thing when you have someone in your life that you're like, you know what, it's one thing to be not mutually beneficial, right? That's one thing, right? You have a friend who just kind of is a taker, but it's another thing when it's beyond mutually beneficial to toxic. To now, I am having either a reaction to this, or this is now harming me or hurting me, and so you realize, hey, I have to set a boundary there.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily talking about like abuse or whatever, but just like your friend, you realize that it was starting to affect you.
Right. Negatively.
Right. As opposed to just, man, that's that guy. So whatever.
Well, and it wasn't, and as I'm saying this now, I'm feeling defensive because from myself,
gotcha.
My stuff, not yours, that I don't leave friendships easily.
Sure.
And it was so hard because I really loved him, but it was like, I can't do this for months and months and months and months. This is too much. It's too much. So when we're talking about all this, so I just need to tell myself it was okay, and I forgive myself.
Totally.
It was it was a little tough to do it.
I'm affirming that with you.
Right.
And sometimes it's family.
It is, yes. Yes.
Tough love and all of that. When you see someone who you absolutely adore and love, but they just continue to make toxic decisions for themselves.
Yeah, got to let it go.
And it's a pattern of behavior that has replicated for decades, and then you're like, hey, this is now, I can't carry that. That's a boundary. That's an energetic boundary that we have to establish so that there's any hope of that person growing through it.
Right. Yes. And that's the thing. When our energy is places it's not supposed to be, like we're caretaking people, or we've just inserted ourselves into a relationship that we don't belong with, family or friends or whatever. If we're doing that, we're actually keeping them from their soul journey and their lesson. And this is a lesson we learn in Al-Anon and Nar-Anon and so many of the 12-step programs that, this issue of codependence is a family, and alcoholism and drug abuse. It's a family disease. It's not just one person's problem. It always looks like the addict, but the fact is there's always a whole...
It splashes over anyone who has contact, and even more, it splashes over anyone who loves them.
Oh, yes, most definitely. So, and the last piece I want to talk about is really important, is just helping us clear out then when we do get this hit with this toxicity. And I'm going to tell you, if you just turn on the news, you're hit with toxicity. So there is a lot of toxic energy right now. There's also a lot of people waking up, and we want to be a part of that, but we don't want to pretend that this negative energy is not there.
Right.
So one of the things you can do is, as I said, speak to the energy literally and say no, and literally imagine pulling the energy out. Especially if you feel at a certain place in your body, you really have the power to do that. Also, there's Epsom salt bath is always really nice. And I had a man tell me, I've had a lot of men actually tell me in counseling, well, I don't really do baths. That's a girl thing. But then I've had many men come back and go, that bath thing's kind of cool. So to do an Epsom salt bath is very clearing. Also to do another bath, to do a pound of baking soda and a pound of sea salt, clears your auric field. And often the water will be gray when you're clearing a lot of negative energy. And I just read an article, I wish I could remember the name of it. If I can find it, we'll put it in the show notes. And I just made this today that in your home to have a bowl with salt in it, from a lot of people who work with spirits and energy always have like salt water around or salt. Well, this article was talking about that salt, because it brings negative ions into the air, so it helps clear negativity. And so just get a really nice salt, like a nice Himalayan salt, and put it in a bowl and have it in your house. And then in mine, I put some beautiful fresh rosemary from my herbs, and then a little flower from outside. I mean, it looks like something you'd see in a spa. And it's just a wonderful way to put a positive energy in your home. So all these are very easy, low cost or no cost things to do to help clear your energy field. And visualizing as well, just a waterfall of white light, clearing out your auric field, moving through your mind, body, and soul, can be very, very healing. And we're probably doing meditation with that coming up today in our recording.
Yeah.
So we want to encourage you, friends, to know that you have the power to clear negative energy out of your life. And the last point I'm going to give you about clearing your auric field, I should have said first, which is a common tradition, which is to burn sage in your home. Sage, is for clearing negativity, and science has now proven that burning of sage does shift the reality of energy in your home. So we want to encourage you to have good boundaries, because we want to keep you safe, and we want the world to reawaken to its goodness. And as we do that, as we work with our own boundaries, we become a different vibration to be around. And you will find you're going to begin attracting to yourself more and more people of the same energetic vibration, and life will become easier for you, and life will have more joy and more love in it for sure. So we want to encourage you to know where you are, to know how to respond when toxic situations happen, which they do, and then be asking yourself, where do you want your energy? Where do I want my energy to go? And then be about the practices of clearing your auric field. So then at the end of the day, you clear your field, you do your bath or your sage or the salt, whatever you're doing. You go to bed, set your intention, wake up, and do the same thing all over the next day. Life will begin to be better for you, friends. So thank you for joining us today for the show on energetic boundaries. I can't believe it's show 56.
I know, show 56. We're coming into the end of July.
And we thank you again for all your support of the show. And please share, if you don't mind, please share this on your social media pages. We want as many people as possible to hear this message and to act on this message so we can begin to change consciousness on planet Earth for the better. So thank you for joining us, and many blessings. We'll see you soon.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey presented by CCU Orlando, Natural Awakenings Magazine, and Unity of Nashville. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is also made possible through the continued support of our angel patrons Dove Borland, Peter Gibson, Paul Caswell, JJ Hamilton, Arlene Meyer, Kathy and Terry, Marcia Mott, and Nora Miles. If you would like to support the channel as a patron on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. And if you enjoy this podcast, help spread the word by sharing it with your friends and leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, or the platform of your choice. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2019 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.